Election integrity is probably the most important thing facing our country right now. If we do not have a voice in our own elections, we will never again regain our voice in our government. And this is the fight of the century, right here, election integrity. We have a whole program for you. We're going to review all of the evidence that was presented. We're also going to give you more information about other things that you probably have not heard about in the media as far as what's going on with the investigation. Excuse me. But unfortunately, Senator Fann is going to have to start this show for us today, and she will go first in this event, and then I ask that you please do stick around because we've got a lot of really great things, including our auditors will come up and they will some of our audit observers and audit workers will come up and give some of their testimonies of what they saw in the audit, and then there will be a Q&A panel after. If you have questions for Senator Fann, I ask that you do please write them on the index cards if you haven't done so already. She has agreed to answer any and all of your questions before she leaves here today. So, yeah, time willing, obviously. But, so without further ado, I want to welcome somebody to the stage that I believe has been instrumental in putting election integrity back on the map and giving us the will to continue to fight, as she was the only state elected official that was able to get the job done and bring an audit somewhere in the United States, and she did it right here in the state of Arizona, in Maricopa County. I want to welcome Senator President Karen Fann.
Thank you all so much. Can you hear me okay? I can't see you very well because there's bright lights, but I know you're out there. Special thanks to Shelby and Steve. They have been the rocks of Gibraltar from day one on this one, and my gratitude and thanks and love to them always. This has been a real challenge so far. We're not done. We're just beginning, just so you know. Just because we've got most of the report, not all of the report, this is just the beginning of where we're going and what we are doing. I know many of you have heard me speak before on this. We've tried to give updates all along. I'm going to kind of go back a little bit, so for the benefit of anybody new that's here, so that you don't feel totally lost, that you know where we've been and where we're going. But first and foremost, what I really want to say to each and every one of you, particularly to any of you who did work at the audit, we had 1,500 volunteers. They gave up their vacations, they hired babysitters for their kids. Yes. And it is for them that I am forever eternally grateful, because we could not have done this without the volunteers. We could not have done this without them sticking with us, because as you know, it took a lot longer than everybody thought it. And they thought that they were going to have to be there, and what happened was it was months, and they hung in there and they did it. So you guys are amazing. All of you that have been supportive, that you have had our backs, you were amazing, and I love you all very, very, very much. This has been a really tough challenge, to say the least. First and foremost, know that this has never been about anything other than election integrity. Even though the media has sat there and twisted this from day one, before we even interviewed or hired auditors, they started trashing this because they did not, nor do the Democrats, did not want to have an audit done. Their hatred for Trump and Republicans is so huge that I do firmly believe that many of them believe, like AOC does, is that, and in her words, it's okay to cheat because that's the only way we can get our people in. If you guys didn't see that on Twitter, she put that out there a couple months ago. And I do believe that there's some people that honestly feel that way. that are currently working in our election system. Now, when we talk about election integrity, I know some from day one said, oh, Trump won, there's no way this and that and the other. Never once have I said fraud. Never once have I said, oh, Trump won. What I said is that we are doing election integrity because our job is to make sure that the elections were done fairly, honestly, accurately, that every vote that was supposed to be counted got counted, and those that should not have been counted did not get counted, and nobody broke the laws, and then we'll figure out where we go from there. So that's what this has all been about from day one. We finally were able to interview and hire some auditors after months of lawsuits. The Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, when this all started, I asked them, please, let's pick somebody together. Of course, this is before everything got the way it did. Let's leave the ballots at your facilities under lock and key, under your cameras. Let's leave the routers and everything there. Let's do this together. And they ultimately said, no. So we issued the subpoenas. I'm giving you the Reader's Digest version here, folks, because it was long. We issued the subpoenas. They took us to court. After American Oversight took us to court, after everybody else, they took us to court and said, oh no, you don't have the right to subpoena us or to get this information. Luckily, we had a judge, the first judge involved with this. We are now on our fourth judge. But Judge Thompson actually did agree with us and said, yes, they have the constitutional authority to issue the subpoenas and to get whatever information they need because they are the legislative body. It is their job to write laws and to pass laws, and they cannot do that if they don't have full access to all the information, regardless of what the topic is. And that's why we were able to be successful. All other lawsuits were dismissed in court that were filed by anybody else that was challenging the 2020 election. One of the reasons why they were dismissed, the main reason, is because they were all filed claiming there was fraud. Folks, you can't prove fraud, you can't claim fraud until you can prove it, right? Because fraud means that somebody did something intentionally. So that is why it was thrown out, because they had no proof. They had no documentation. In fact, an audit hadn't even been done to figure out whether there were any rules broken to begin with. But because we went down the path of election integrity, because we went down the path that we should as your elected officials, that's why we are where we're at today, and we're the only ones that have been able to be successful up to this point. Other states are now moving forward. They've been watching us closely. We've had 18 other states come visit the audit. They watched what we did. They watched how we operated, how we counted votes, how we scanned the ballots, everything. And I am in continuous contact with all of them as they start working through their processes there. Myself and some other states. When we talk about the media and I talk about how bad it's been, if any of you get the horrible Arizona Republic, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I have more darts in my back. Everybody said, what happened to Karen? She used to be a nice person. Now I'm a crazy nut, they said. But, you know, that's the liberal media, right? They definitely do not want us looking into these things. American Oversight, which is a very heavy Democrat-led national agency, has sued us many times. A lot of it has to do with public records requests. A lot of it has to do with pretty much trying to stop us. They tried to stop us from counting the ballots. They tried to put an injunction on us. We were able to fight them all back. I'm sorry to say that I had to spend some taxpayer monies to make that happen, but I hope you'll forgive me and you'll see that it was a good cause that we spent that money on, right? Even from the day one, it's interesting to note that Maricopa County set up their own Twitter account so that every time something came out, they tweeted out an excuse, an explanation, or in some cases just out and out lies. It was interesting how they would go in front of the media, and 4 of these 5 are Republicans, or they say they're Republicans. And they were hook and line along with the liberal media, and they were feeding off of each other, as was Stephen Richard. I'm sorry to say, but our new county recorder, we were all excited to get rid of Adrian Fontes because we knew how bad it was in the 2018 election. We were like going, great, we finally have a honest Republican in there. I don't know what he's doing or what he thinks he's doing, but he is towing the county supervisor line right now. And so he's doing the same thing. He's got a Twitter page up and he's just tweeting out all this stuff. So when we finally got the information, we got the logs and the ballots and everything else, started working on them, and it became very apparent to Doug Logan from Cyber Ninjas, Ben Cotton from Cypher, that there were documents missing off of the servers. Large files missing. We went back and said, you guys, there's files missing. In fact, in July, we had an interim report so that they could report to us what was taking so long, where are you at, what are you doing, and it was reported in July that one of the things that was taking them so long is because there was information missing on the servers. We also know that the chain of custody was wholly lacking. I can't tell you where the ballots were at any given time before we got them. We know that they did not follow procedures when it came to duplicate ballots. When there's a spoiled ballot, you make one duplicate, you identify it, that this ballot is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You mark one ballot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so everybody knows this ballot was only counted once, and it was only the duplicate counted. That's how you keep track and audit duplicate ballots. What did we find? We found boxes that on the outside of the box, if they were marked duplicate, you open the box up and none of them were numbered. I can't tell you whether they were duplicates or not. I can't tell you where they came from. That's a serious problem, folks. That's a real serious problem. Let's talk about all the missing data and information. And what Shelby said as well, please, 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 stick around. I was going to speak at the end. I had a death in my immediate family this week, so I have a lot of family members that are flying in, so I told Shelby, please let me go first so I can take care of you guys, and then I'm going to go be with my family after this. So please, please, please stay afterwards because they are going to show you all the backup of what I'm telling you right now. They are going to, I think you're going to be really interested in seeing it, so don't leave, folks. When we talk about the missing data, and as they testified that because of the missing data on the EMS servers, that it was difficult to tie some of these numbers together. And so when the report came out September 24th, I can tell you that much of that report is inconclusive. If you've read it, you see where they were able to identify A, B, and C, but they couldn't tie D together because we didn't have the Splunk logs, the routers, missing data, and we'll talk about the Splunk logs and the routers in a minute. But we had missing data. And all along, supervisor said, we didn't delete anything. You guys are nuts. You don't know what you're doing. You're a bunch of crazy people. That's what they said. And you guys don't know what you're doing. Anybody watch the congressional hearing about 3 weeks ago? Oh, it was awesome. If you didn't,
I have clips I'm going to play.
you have it. Thank you very much. It is pretty awesome. So, my love to Congressman Biggs. He's my hero. So the Democrats decided they were going to do this hearing, and the hearing was something like the sham audit of Arizona. It was a setup from day one, right? They were loaded for bear. And actually, interesting what happened is they all came out looking really stupid thanks to Congressman Biggs. Part of that deal was, so they went through their whole rigmarole and everything else. There was 2 of our Board of Supervisors there, sworn in under testimony before the congressional hearing. Ken Bennett was there, And then there was somebody else, sorry, I don't even remember the guy's name, but apparently he's supposed to be some election expert, obviously on the Democrat side. So Kim Bennett who was extremely articulate about explaining all the laws that were broken, that Adrian Fontes, what I just described to you, the duplicate ballots, missing information, lack of chain of custody, ballots were just dumped into boxes on the side. Shelby, any of you guys that work there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They said before the election started, Fontes says, we only use 4 types of paper and it's all secure and coded, so there's no way that there could be bleed through in any way whatsoever. Wrong. We can prove to you there was over 10 types of paper used, and yes, there was bleed through, and I can show it to you. Yep. So they lied to us about that as well. But one of the biggest things is that all along, remember they said we're nuts, they didn't delete anything, and they've given us everything. Lie number 10. No, they have withheld the Splunk logs and the logs all the time and the routers. But then Andy Biggs says, so I have right here in front of me absolute proof that, yeah, there was information deleted from the servers the day before they were turned over to the auditors and the Senate. The day before. And he looked at the supervisors and he says, would you like to tell me if that's correct? And one of them said, now remember, now they're under oath. Yeah, we did. And then he explains, well, they had to do that to make room for an upcoming election. Congressman Biggs says, well, that doesn't really explain why there's still older elections from 18 on there, but you decided to do these the day before. So you gotta wonder, why did they really delete information, huge files of data, the day before, and left old stuff on there? They testified that, oh, this was a really, really great election. It was perfect. It was wonderful. And he says, this is the same guy, Adrian Fontes, that screwed up the 2018 election so bad that you literally hired somebody to oversee him. And apparently he didn't do a much better job this time. And if you look at the look on their faces, pretty much all they did was kind of go, true, right? True? I mean, if you look at it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So then Andy says, so that deleted information, and he goes, wait, it's all archived. It's not. Now, mind you, the statutes say that you're not allowed to delete information like that. So they broke the rules there to begin with. However, they said, but it's archived. It's on a backup. So they deleted this amount here and backed it up on another file, supposedly. And he goes, okay. He says, then did you turn over that information that you deleted and archived? Did you turn that over to the auditors in the Senate? And Bill Gates says, no. And Andy said, why? And he says, well, because they didn't subpoena the archive stuff. He actually said that with a straight face, really hard to believe. And of course, Andy says, well, I have the subpoena right in front of me. It says turn over the information, period. You should have turned it over. So this is the stuff we've been dealing with throughout the audit. Besides the challenges, besides everything else, we have been lied to. They have hidden stuff away from us. Now, has anybody read about any of this stuff in the paper, in the media? Nope, right? Months and months and months we've gone by. The Arizona Republic, liberal media, CNN, everybody else has totally trashed us, attacked us, ruined my reputation, ruined Cyber Ninjas, Cyphers, anybody connected with this audit. They have ruined our reputations because they are reporting the facts. And when I asked every one of them and I said, you guys, here it is. Let me show you right here, under oath, and it has been filmed and documented, the whole world to see. Why aren't you guys reporting that? Wouldn't you think that any news media would probably think that would be a pretty juicy story? If it was reversed, do you not think that would have been the headlines? Right? So what does that tell you about the media? We knew they were bad. I didn't know how bad until I got involved with this audit. I told President Trump, I said, sir, I've always had an immense respect for you, but until I dealt with the media, and I realized that what I dealt with was about this much compared to what you've gone through in the last 6 years, and I said, God bless you, because I don't know how you survived. And I mean, my hat's off to him, because it's brutal. These people are mean, they're nasty, they lie, and they do not tell the truth. And I have come to the conclusion, right? And I have come to the conclusion that they are equally responsible for the mess that we are in now. I believe, this is my beliefs, I believe that they intentionally made sure, we make the jokes about Biden in the basement. I think they were intentionally complicit. I think that they intentionally made sure he stayed in the basement, because we know that he was starting to not be quite the sharpest tax in the box anymore. And I think, you know, my personal opinion is, I think, you know, when the whole thing started, they all said, it's your turn. Let Obama have this, it's your turn, he'll do it. And then all of a sudden when his turn came up, and they thought, okay, he's kind of a, you know, sort of a, you know, leans left, not crazy, so we think he'd be a good candidate. And I think by the time they started, and within a few months, it was like, when this guy isn't all here, what are we going to do? Because they had already touted him as the best, the sharpest tax in the box, and realized, hold on to that. It's kind of interesting to note when you watch them walking Jill and Joe, like Joe and Jack. You know, when President Trump and Melania, when they walk, they were always hand in hand, equals, side by side. Have you ever noticed almost all the time that Jill's like 2 steps ahead of President Biden, literally leading? Watch that, you guys. Watch that next time you see it. She literally is. So I do believe that the media is entirely complicit, the liberal media, and the reason why we're here today, because I think they hid him. I think they kept him away from the public. So, and they used COVID, talk about a perfect storm. They got away with it because they were able to use that and keep him away from debating, from talking to you, so you guys could see really how bad off he was. Because we know once they were all in, and if you guys saw all that, I'm pretty sure Trump would have won by a whole lot right off the bat. So one thing I want you to do is I want you to start holding these guys accountable. You know, we all say that they're bad, but let's start holding them accountable. And if that means, you know what, if that means don't subscribe to them, if you don't do, oh, here's another thing. I gotta tell you, this is the other thing I've noticed lately. They're all starting to back each other up. So I see the liberal Yellow Sheet Capital Times, they tweet something out, and then I see the reporters from the Arizona Republic that goes, oh yeah, we treat Ryan Randuzzo over here, we treat this. They're retweeting each other. They're saying, oh, get a subscription to the Arizona Republic net. So they must have had a powwow somewhere and said, look guys, we're kind of losing here, we gotta band together. Well, guess what? We're going to band together too, folks, okay? Because we're tired. We are so tired of the media lying to us, hiding things from us. They need to be held accountable, and they need to buy. You know what? I wish you could figure out some way to run some legislation so that they would have to declare as an independent expenditure for candidates, because they definitely are giving to liberal candidates and not to Republicans, right? We see how that works, right? They should have to declare all that. Okay, let's go back to the audit, folks. So the good news is now we can prove and show that they have lied to us all along, that they hid things from us. So we are still working on getting that information. Let's talk about the routers and the swim clubs. Everybody get one of these when you came in? They were handing them out? Oh, general summary and conclusions of Karen Fann's backdoor deal. Wish I had a backdoor deal. I don't. My front door's always open. I have no back door. But let's talk about this a second, because you know what? I leave it out there, folks. I have nothing to hide, ever. Ever. You want to know something? I'm going to tell you. You may like it, you may not, but I'm going to tell you what the truth is. So let's talk about this, since this is floating out there. And before I say that, let me also say something. This has been tough, folks. This has been really, really tough. I've taken the darts, I've taken everything else, as you have as well. I have been threatened more times than you can imagine. I have received envelopes with white powder in them. I have received death threats. And it has not been fun. Thank God that's only about 20%. The other 80% is good, wonderful, loving, God-fearing people like you who send me emails and notes and say, Karen, we've got your back. We are praying for you. Hang in there. We know this is tough. So thank you all for that as well. And with that, I am now going to say, so it does get a little disheartening when somebody does something that tries to trash my reputation and go against everything we're trying to work so hard to accomplish here. Because you know what they say? United we stand, divided we fall. Come on. So let's talk about this. Let's get this out in the open. So as you know, Maricopa County has been hiding the splunk logs and the routers from day one. They have done a very, very good, successful job of trashing our auditors and discrediting them. So the last 4 lawsuits that we've been involved with, Judge Hanna, which is one of our newest judges that has been doing this the last few months, has ruled against us. He was appointed to the bench by Janet Napolitano. What does that tell you? He is cited against us every time with American Oversight, with Perkins Coie, with everybody else. Somebody remind me to touch on that point when I'm done with this one, to talk about the transparency of our emails and audits. But let's go back to this real quick. He has ruled against us time and time again. We have appealed, we have spent money. He keeps ruling against us. Now, we are 1 week before before we are doing the September 24th report. And we have Sonny Borelli. Anybody know Senator Borelli? He's a great guy. He's massaged. He filed a 1487. And what a 1487, if you don't know, is that we passed a law a few years ago that says as a municipality, if you break a straight state law, if you don't follow state law, we have the right to withhold your state shared revenues. And that can be a lot of money, right? So we got their attention, and Attorney General Brnovich backed us up on that one. So we're saying, great, we've got now have some hold. So the week before the September 24th, I happen to know that the Maricopa County already had a lawsuit prepared, was going to go back to Judge Hanna and tell him, because they had said all along, we will never, never, never turn over the Splunk logs or the routers to Cyber Ninjas or Cypher. That there is security information on there with the Maricopa County deputies, there's private information, etc., and they have everybody convinced, including Judge Hanna. And the media played a big part of that as well, because they didn't dispute any of it. So they were, and Sheriff Penzone was right in there. Thanks, Steve, you're right. So I already knew, as did our attorneys and everybody else, that if they had filed that lawsuit and gone back, the judge would have said, you're not getting that information. And here's why they really are going to say that. Is because they came to me a week before and said, we'd like to talk a settlement to get this 1487 issue over with. I said, I'm always yours. All I want is the information. You guys started this piss and match. You guys started this fight. My job is to get this audit done fairly, accurately with the information, so tell me what you've got. And they said, well, we will never, never, never turn over these specifically to Cyber Ninjas, because we all know that they don't know what they're doing, and they're not certified auditors, and they're not this and everything else. By the way, on that note, they're right about that. They're not certified auditors. Because there are no certified auditors, folks. There is no such thing. They do not exist as a certified election auditor. I called the Federal Election Commission when I first started this and started to get a list of who I should start interviewing, talking, and they said, President Fann, there are no certified auditors. We only authorize companies to certify the machines before and after election. By the way, the 2 audits that Maricopa County did, yeah, they hired 2 companies, which is Pro V&B and SLI, to do these audits. Pro V&B is the company that certified the machines to begin with. Did you know that? And neither one of them are certified auditors. They are 2 companies that are authorized to certify the machines before and after election. So you didn't hear about that in the paper either, did you? So there are no certified. But the deal, back to the other, is that they were ready to go back to court, and they said, here's what we'll do. We will offer to hire a special master who has the ability to hire professional IT companies and firms that will get all your questions and answers to what you need off the Splunk logs and the routers. Now, first and foremost, I asked our attorney, and I said, I have 4 attorneys, by the way. I asked all 4 of them, and I said, if we enter into this, do I lose any rights at all as the Senate or anything we have? And they said, no, you don't, Karen. This is only settling this 11487 issue. They all said, if they don't give you the information, if they screw around, if they withhold anything again or not answer your questions, you still have every legal remedy available to you, including subpoenas, taking them to court, file another 1487. We can do whatever we want, okay? So I did not give up any privileges or rights. What we did do is say, we're going to take the high road here, and we're going to get this information, knowing full well that the judge was not going to get those machines over anyway, and it was a double whammy because the judge would have said they just offered a reasonable solution and you refused. So the judge would have said, no, you get nothing. So we took the high road and we said, yeah, we're going to do it. And I let them know very well, which is why Supervisor Gallardo voted no on and went on the media, because he said, I voted no because I know tomorrow she can issue a subpoena again and we're going to start this circus all over again. He's dang right. That's exactly what we're going to do with our information. So that's what we are doing. I see Congressman John Shattuck's name is mentioned on this. He served, for those of you who have not been in Arizona very long, he served as a congressman for many years. He was very well respected. He worked very closely with John Kyle, if you know Senator Kyle. Very respected man. Yes, he did some work about 4 or 5 years ago for Hickman Farms and represented them on something, but that doesn't mean that he has anything else. Hell, can I say hell in here? I do believe I even have a campaign contribution from like 4 years ago from Paul Hickman, his brother. So guess what? You know, things change, and it doesn't mean that the things happened back then are the same things here. But I've always known Mr. Shattuck, Congressman Shattuck, to be an honorable man. And I'm not going to accuse of him anything until he shows me he's not honorable. And I think that's the least we can do to do that with any human being. So I'm okay, thank you. So I'm okay with him. And for some reason, if he doesn't get the answers for us or there's anything else, I'm going to let you guys know. And we're going to start this all over again because they promised us the information and we're going to get it. So we will do that. So let's talk about, let's see. Karen Fann's agreement was made unilaterally without consent of the Arizona Judicial Committee, the Senate body, and the people of Arizona at large. Okay, guess what? I don't need as Senate President, I don't have to get that. Because I have the constitutional authority to do that as Senate President. And you know what? That's why we are where we're at, is because I have the authority to issue the subpoenas. Yep. I didn't have the votes on the floor to get them votes. Yep. But guess what? We did it. So there are a lot of things that I agree 100%. 99% of the time, I absolutely agree. I would love to have our Senate vote on things and get Heck, I don't want just 16 and 14. I'd like to have majority. I'd love to have all of you vote on things. I'd love to be able, because that's what I've been about. I've been in politics over 25 years, folks. I'm tired, to be honest with you, but I'm going to tell you, I love this. But sometimes I am thankful and I'm grateful that once in a while we have some power that I don't have to wait for 16 votes or put it on the ballot, because sometimes things are too important to do that. And if I have the authority to issue a subpoena on my own, and I did it with our judicial chair, first with Eddie Farnsworth, then with Warren Peterson after we changed over. The two of us did it together, and that's how we got it done, because we had the authority, the legal authority to do it. And this is why we're still in the fight, and this is why we're doing this. You know, you guys, you say, why didn't you throw the supervisors in jail? Should have gone to jail. Well, our rules, our laws, constitutionally, rules everything else, that once we did the subpoena and they said, no, we're not going to turn these over to you, whatever it was, excuse me, the next thing I have to do, constitutionally and by the rules, what I have to do is we have to put a resolution of contempt up on the board, and we have to vote on it. And I have to get at least 16 votes. Folks, I didn't have 16 votes. I had one member that is actually sided with the supervisors, that has his own Twitter account out there and backs them up every time. I did not have the legal authority. Now, see, there's a nice little reverse there. You know, on one hand you say, you gotta have people's votes, and on the other hand, I'm saying, yeah, when I'm required to get the votes, I can't even get the votes. So thank God I had the ability to do some stuff on my own. And Sonny Borelli had the authority to file the 1487 all by himself too. We didn't have to take a vote on that either. So that is the reality of this. That's the reality of what's going on here. So not only are we supposed to get the information, and if we don't, we'll go back. They also had a claim against us for $2.8 million, and they dropped that as well. They said, we won't go after the $2.8 million. I said, good, because I was going to fight you in court over that one too. But this was the right decision at the right time to do. And if we don't get the information, as I've said a half a dozen times now, we will get it. So, that's the deal with this. If you have any more questions later about it, glad to answer those, but I gave you the scenario. Let's also talk about the transparency issue. Everything you were hearing in the paper about we're hiding things, we're not turning records over, we're not doing this, we're not doing that. Once again, that's half lies, full lies in some cases. So as a Senate body, and according to the laws, per the Constitution, per the rules, that if as a public entity using your taxpayers, we are required to turn documents over in a public records request. Now, we are entitled to some things that are held private. Some of those things that are held private is communications between me and our attorneys, just like you and your attorneys have a private clause. Some of the things are things that we get, our information we are gathering while we are working on legislation. Doesn't matter what the topic is, that is all still privileged information. Once we put that out there, we put the bill out there, we drop that bill and we put it out there, then you can have that information. But up until that time, it's privileged because we're working on legislation. Outside of that, pretty much everything else you guys can have. And as the Senate and myself, we have turned over 60,000 documents. 60,000. My personal emails, my personal texts have been included. This judge has even gone after our personal information. Besides all the other stuff, it's out there. And guess what? You haven't heard much about it because there's nothing there, folks. You know, they tried to say it right there. I think the worst they did is they saw one of my texts where I kind of said something about a fellow senator that I said, she's off a rocker today or something. I got nailed on outside of that. No, there wasn't there. So they keep fishing, right? They keep fishing because they're trying to do this more and more and more. We'll talk about Easter Friday in a minute, okay? I see your sign. And I know that's important. So consequently, we have turned that over with the exception of these documents that are still under legislative privilege for the 2 explanations I told you. Now, when they say that we're hiding stuff, let me tell you what that's about. This Judge Hanna, same Judge Hanna, has ruled in favor of the Arizona Republic as well as American Oversight and Perkins Coie. And what they're trying to do is get all of the personal emails, text messages between Cyber Ninjas and all of his clients and his subcontractors. That's what that's about, folks. They want information from 2 private companies, from private individuals. Now, where does that stop? And the judge's rule, we actually appealed that, and the judge ruled against us. So now they're going after, they are now threatening to hold me in contempt of court, as well as Doug Logan with Cyber Ninjas. Cyber Ninjas is on this, because there's 2 cases going. Cyber Ninjas has just filed their own appeal on their own. And quite honestly, I support him 100% on his appeal. I absolutely do. Where do you draw this line at? So we do, as a state, we do something with, let's talk about Microsoft, okay? Just pick Microsoft, Intel, anybody. And we have a contract with you for software, this, that, and the other. All my stuff is open. You guys can see everything. So does that mean we now get to go to Microsoft and say, by the way, we now are on your personal emails and everything with all of your clients and stuff. Anybody that had anything to do with this software, we have rights to that? I don't think so, folks. That is definitely an overreach. And it's an invasion of our privacy is what I say. So I'm all for them. I'm all for supporting him in what he does. What I will tell you is, yes, I've had to send a letter as Senate President, as I am required to do, to tell him that the judge has told us that they are in breach, that they are in non-compliance, because in our contract it says you will give us any pertinent information. Now, we didn't say that you would give us all your private emails. We said things that we were doing with the contract. So we do believe the judge has gone well over his boundary on that one. But we did have to send a letter. I sent a letter notifying him and the subcontractors, please be aware, the judge has just issued a rule that he's looking at holding us in contempt of court. Now, I'll let you in a little secret. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. Because I was talking to our attorney the other day. And I said, you know what? I said, I know I have a job to do as Senate President, and I have to protect my taxpayers, and we have to do everything. But I'm going to tell you what. If this judge wants to hold me in contempt of court, now I don't have these records, folks. Senate has never had these records. These belong to Cyber and his clients. I don't even have them. I can't turn over something I don't have. And I told my attorney, I said, you know what? If he wants to hold me in contempt because I'm not turning over something I don't have, then let him. In fact, you know what? I'm okay with that. If he wants to throw me in jail because I'm not turning over something I didn't think needed to be turned over to begin with, much less the fact that I don't have, go ahead. Send me to jail. And I say that because I know he is definitely crossing a line there. I know that this will become a national story like unbelievable proportions, and it will blow up the judicial system when you have judges that decide they're going to try and jail a Senate President. That's going to be real ugly, folks. And you know what? That gives me the reason to have him kicked off of our case. He does not belong to So, that is the whole story about the 4 records. Decertified, let's talk about that. You had your sign up? Let's talk about decertify. I know everybody, not everybody, but I know many people, they want to talk about they want everybody to decertify. Let's talk about that, folks. I know no matter how much you want it or how much you guys want Trump back in, how much we hate Biden and the crap he's doing to our country right now, I'm with you. I'm so angry at what's going on now. I've never been this angry in my entire life, ever, of what's going on these last 9 months. I am just beyond myself. But we have rules that we have to follow. Now, first and foremost, we do not have a procedure to decertify. I mean, even the scholars will say, we have no way, no specific thing. Now, mind you, even for us to recall the electors, even for us to do anything, that is going to require the vote of the House and the Senate. We're back to this again. This is a circumstance in which I do have to get votes from the House and the Senate to either recall electors, to decertify, whatever we think we want to put up on the board that we think we can get passed. I have to get 16 and 31 now.
Real talk show.
So first of all, I don't have 16 in the Senate, and I can tell you I know darn well I don't even have close to 31 in the House. In fact, I'm not sure it would even be put up on the board, because guess what? The Senate is the only one doing this audit, folks. This is on our back and our back only. We've been leading the charge all by ourselves. But I have to do that. It has to go through both bodies. Now, how am I going to do that? How do I possibly get 16 and 31 to move this goalpost? How do I do that? And if you were an elected official and you said, we've got a report, we see there's a lot of problems, missing data, this was done, 6 laws were broken, 8 laws were broken, whatever. But we have a lot of inconclusive stuff. So, do you really know whether Biden won, Trump won, this, that, and the other? To vote for decertification? Well, I have members that aren't 100% convinced yet. And a lot of it's because of the liberal media and the Maricopa County, how they have totally trashed this entire audit. So I've got to convince those people that everything was so bad that we can't really tell who won. Because we have envelopes, your ballot envelopes that you got to sign to say, this is my ballot. We have thousands of those with no signatures at all that never should have been counted. I can't tell you because they're separated. I can't tell you if they belong to a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or who they voted for because they're taken out. But I can tell you that there's a whole bunch of them that aren't signed and never should have been counted. But if I've got to convince people to vote to do any action at all to turn this election around and hold these people accountable, we have to convince them. Now, the legislative body, we pass laws, we make sure those laws are working, and then we pass new ones to fix those. It is the Attorney General's office to enforce those laws, which is why we have turned everything over to the Attorney General, and he has opened up an investigation so that he can verify everything that we have given him. And when he verifies that and gives us something that I can take back and say, okay, the media lied to you, Maricopa lied to you, but here it is. Here's the proof. Our Attorney General, maybe it's a grand jury, maybe it is a court, whatever it is. Here we go. We now have independent, supposedly nonpartisan people that can verify what we just turned over to them. And let me also say, there's another hero out there that I really want to thank a lot, because part of the original audit was we were supposed to do some canvassing. The auditor was to knock on doors to verify these reports that we were getting about 25 ballots that went to a home where only 2 people lived there. We have a lot of affidavits of people testifying and verifying that things that they saw. And we were going to do it, but the Department of Justice came down on us and said, we will halt you right now if you try and do that, because that's voter suppression.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Knocking on doors, asking if they voted is voter suppression. Knocking on doors and asking if they got 25 ballots. No, that's voter suppression. So, what I told the Department of Justice, because we had just gotten the ballots, we had just won so many lawsuits, they're still coming after, and I said, you know what? I am going to postpone the canvassing indefinitely. We'll put it at the back end. And if we need to do it, we'll look at it at the back end. But we're not gonna do it. So that backed them off. So they didn't take the ballots away. We could continue with it. But God bless this woman. Her name is Liz Harris. I didn't know her and never met her. But I heard about this lady out there that right after the election, she and her grassroots friends and supporters, I don't know, maybe some of you did it, yeah, okay, thank you. They started going around, they started doing their own canvassing as private individuals, as patriots. And I don't know how many thousands of hours and thousands of people that she had involved with this, but God bless you all, because she was able to get all that information. And she is turning all of that over to the Attorney General as well. And Berno doesn't have to worry about the Department of Justice coming after him, because he'll just turn around and go after them. So he will be able to help back up all that information. So that's where all that is right now. We have met this last week, my Senate team, our caucus members. We had 2 meetings this week to go through all of those recommendations that we have so far from Cyber Ninjas, from Ken Bennett, from anybody, all of you guys. You have been amazing. The people of the workers that showed me and told me what you saw, what you experienced, so we could understand where we have problems at. So we have met this week. We have a huge list of things that we are going to start working on this week, immediately, to start drafting legislation, to start closing those loopholes, to hold those folks accountable, so that we can continue to do our job to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And that's what we're doing while Attorney General is backing up everything in that audit, so that we can move down that path. So we've got like 3 paths going on right here, and we're moving, and as I said when I came up here, we're not done. We're just getting started, folks. We got a long haul. So, questions? I think I hit on pretty much everything without getting in the weeds too much, but